By the way, governments can get themselves in a real mess, as has happened recently over biofuels. The United States announced that a great whacking amount of all the gasoline burnt in cars and just about every device had to be from biofuel from tomorrow. The European Union has done the same. What a crazy idea. Half of my time, or a big chunk of my time, is involved in an AIDS foundation around the world in places like India, Thailand, Zimbabwe. We're feeding 2,000 AIDS orphans right now in a country which has 100,000% inflation. But that's not our problem. Our biggest problem, actually, is this. It's the fact that when you start putting wheat and burning wheat in car engines, wheat prices go up. And it's not just wheat prices. Just about every food can be converted into biofuel, every form of starch. And not only that, even if it's only wheat that you put in your car engines, what that means is people say, oh, why am I growing soybean? Let me grow wheat instead. So soybean crops are diverted into wheat, which means that we now have a global soybean oil crisis. The price of soybean oil has soared. So people think, oh, I'll plant more soybean and a bit less rice. And then we have rice shortages. So, and then we think, oh, why am I having this forest when it could be land for cultivating? And so you have trees cut down in Indonesia to convert into places where you can grow just about any kind of food because all the food prices are going up. Now, I'm not saying it's all to do with biofuel. It's not. The fact is that we've had periods of drought here. We've had failed harvests elsewhere. We've had all kinds of glitches in the market. But one thing I can assure you is that this final little spike, which perhaps is the final thing which produced these food riots in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in India, in China, and more to come, perhaps just that last trigger was the biofuel thing. And of course, biofuel has hardly begun yet. It's only a phantom in the imagination of the sellers of food. And that's one of the reasons why people are stockpiling hundreds of millions of tons of food. Why? Because they hope to sell it to people who drive cars in future. How crazy can you get? Now, of course, bio-waste, that's another issue. But even bio-waste, my friends, what are you actually doing? Instead of applying those products back into the land, which means you don't need to use fertilizers, you're burning that biomass in a power station, or you're using it to make fuel. So I'm just giving it as an example of how government action can suddenly distort markets within the period of 18 months, cause global crises of various kinds, and then, because after causing a global crisis, you find government action will change. You can be quite sure that there will be a huge rethink in the United States, it's already started, about that stupid biofuel decision. And as I say, there's nothing more idiotic than putting a business class passenger on an airline in competition with a subsistence farmer in Africa for the same food. It's just madness.